So the father goes and he takes his issues to the one who he believes can handle his issues. He's taking them to the disciples, and the disciples couldn't help him. And so he says, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is an epileptic and suffers severely, for he often falls into the fire and often into the water. So I brought him to your disciples, but they could not cure him. And Jesus, we got to get this in the text. He's not calling the father, he's not calling the son a faithful, faithless, perverse generation. He's talking to his disciples. He says, oh, faithless and perverse generation, we can miss this in the text. Jesus is I want to say what I want to say, but I can't say it. He's not happy with the disciples right now. And so he says, how long shall I have to be with you? How long must I keep on dealing with your foolishness? Not only have you seen me heal the blind and heal the lame and heal the deaf, not only have you seen me cast out demons, but you've done it yourself. Yeah. Why? After I've just come down, he doesn't say this, but I know he's thinking, I just came back from Mount Hermon. I've just been transfigured, the glory, and now I got to come and deal with this still. I'm on my way to the cross. Y'all have got to be ready to carry this ministry going forward. And how long am I going to have to deal with this? Forget it, I do it myself. Bring the boy to me. Bring him here. Y'all can't do it. Just bring him to me. So they bring the boy to him. And Jesus, it says in verse 18, he rebuked the demon. And it cast him out, and the child was cured from that very hour. And then so later on, or sometime after the father leaves the scene, the disciples, it says, come to Jesus privately. Why couldn't we cast it out, Jesus? And Jesus' response to them, this would throw my whole thing off. Come on now. He says, because of your unbelief. Now get this, the unbelief is not non-belief. There is obviously some belief in the disciples. Yeah. So a lot of translations will say, because of your little faith, because of your weak faith. Right. There's just some things and so the very fact that the disciples have come to Jesus, we understand that there's some faith in him or in them, that they have some faith in him, but there's something that is weak to the point to deal with what they're dealing with here. Speak God. And so in the Mark version, the father seems to get it. In the Mark version, the father says, I believe, help my unbelief. And it seems like a contradiction, but what it's saying is, look, I believe that you're able, but for whatever reason, whether circumstances that your disciples couldn't do it, or the physicians couldn't do it, or my prayers don't seem to be answered, I'm weak in my faith right now, and I need you. I believe in you, and I believe that you can help my unbelief. Come on now. The disciples don't even seem to get this, even though they're the ones who've walked with Jesus and learned of him. And so they want to know, how come we couldn't do it? And so Jesus says, because of your unbelief, because of your little faith, because of your weak faith. For assuredly I say to you, if you have faith as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. And nothing will be impossible for you. Because really our focus should not be on moving the mountains. That ain't what Jesus said. Come on now. Jesus said, if you have faith as a mustard, you will say to the mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. It didn't say that you will move the mountain.
Come on.
It said that if you got a little bit of faith, you will speak to your mountain.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm really. We about to get out early today because that just delivered me from a whole bunch of stuff. I got stuff going on in my life, and I don't know how I'm gonna move this mountain. And God spoke to me on the way down to Xenia, Ohio, on Saturday afternoon that I didn't ask you to move the mountain. I told you to speak to the mountain.
Yeah. Lord.
That freed me. That freed me. And you don't have to. You don't have to even come up with your own stuff to speak to the mountain. You can just go to the word and start. I can do all things. I dare you to go to your mountain and say, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Woo.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I got some other stuff in here. It's just not even that. Look. You have been staying up all night long. You got high blood pressure. You've been yelling at your kids. You've been yelling at your husband and your wife. You are dealing with all kind of stuff because a mountain just seems insurmountable. A mountain. And see, if you've lived in Ohio your whole life, you don't really know nothing about mountains. I love to go spend some time in the Hocking Hills, but those are just hills at the base of the Appalachian Mountain Range. And so if you want to really get into the Appalachian Mountains, you got to go into North Carolina and Virginia. You go up through West Virginia and Pennsylvania. And so in Pennsylvania, you got Mount Nittany. But even those mountains, about 5,500 feet above sea level. And so if you want to see some real mountains, actually, you need to go out west. And so you go out to the Rocky Mountain Range or maybe the Cascades out in the Northwest. And so the elevation gets up into the thousands and tens of thousands of feet above. But then really, that's not even the tallest mountain range in the United States. You really have to go off of the continental United States up into Alaska where you have the Mount McKinley. And so you really start seeing mountains and you understand the enormity of a mountain. And when you are faced with that mountain in your life, if you only have a little faith, and your faith is in expectation that you can move the mountain on your own rather than speak to the mountain, you can start. But even those mountains, even Mount McKinley, I believe, has been changed to Denali, back to Denali now. But if you want to see some real mountains, you'll go over to Nepal and over where Mount Everest is, where the tallest peaks on earth are. And see, you can actually see a mountain, and those mountains can be discouraging. You can say, look, I don't know how I'm going to deal with this mountain all on my own. But the good news is that God never said that you have to move your own mountain. Come on. He says, speak to the mountain.